Welcome back to Breakfast Central. And of course, just before, of course, we get to the 9 o'clock hour, the conversations are still centered around what's going on with Nigeria's political space. We, of course, have just gone through elections in the early part of the year. A new government is currently in office. There's been a tribunal sitting. There's going to be Supreme Court rulings. There's so much. But the big question, of course, is what happens with the future of Nigerian politics? Where exactly is the country headed?
Regardless of the challenges that come from wanting to make a change through politics, some have wondered if it's necessary to join a political party, to get involved, to change the system. As for others, they see the system as a roundtable of men seated to make money with less impact on the society. The recent elections have further dashed interest while uplifting others, with coups happening in other parts of Africa and the lack of willpower from certain leaders. So we worry about the future of politics in Nigeria and where Nigeria is headed. Our guest this morning is Roberta Okereke. She's the experienced lead School of Politics, Policy and Governance. Good morning, Ms. Okereke. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you and good morning. Thank you for having me.
Let's dive into the conversation. There's been a recent wave of coups. In the past couple of years, we've seen a number of coups. More recently, we've had that of Gabon and Niger, which has been widely publicized, I beg your pardon. With all these coups happening, what would you say is the future of politics in Nigeria? Are there fears that this might in some measure extend here?
A brilliant question for today, and that's a question that Nigerians need to be really looking into, because Nigeria, the reasons for these coups are, I think some people believe it is bad politics or it's just disenfranchisement with everything that's going on. And in many ways that is correct, because the politics determines the leadership. So fundamentally, citizens in Africa, in those African countries, including Nigeria, are so upset by the type of terrible governance and leadership that they've had. And that's what's causing this reaction to it, because people are saying enough is enough. We can't take it anymore. We can't stand for this. We demand for more. Now the approach to engaging and wanting change, it's now what we're discussing. Should it be a coup or should it not be a coup? What is the right approach? But yes, and Nigeria does have a lot to be concerned with, because we're not so much better than any of these countries that have just witnessed a coup. And particularly, we have our own peculiar situation in that we received the court judgment about the February elections. And you can see there's a lot of dissatisfaction from Nigerians. Because why are we dissatisfied? Because people generally feel like the right judgment has not been given. They don't feel like the citizens have been taken into account, or democracy has really taken place in its truest form. So these are the sorts of dissatisfaction with leadership and with government that cause coups to happen. So there's a lot for Nigeria to fear, but the real question I think I would put out there is, what should be the right response? How do we express this dissatisfaction? We should express them. We shouldn't sit down on our hands, but how should we really be thinking about those things? What can be done better?
That's also a good, point to take. How do we respond? How do, the millions of young Nigerians who decided to get involved with the elections, get involved with the process, in the last elections, and of course in the last couple of years, how do they respond? But so you could quickly answer that, but at the same time also chip in. Are these all parts of the process? It's not perfect. Sometimes, you go through these glitches as a country in order to fine-tune your leadership recruitment process and fine-tune your democracy, fine-tune your politics. And so should Nigerians have that in their heads as, ways to comfort themselves, that don't, give up. These are all parts of fine-tuning our leadership recruitment process, and it would get better with time.
I think some part of it is part of the process that we must engage. And the part that I will speak about is the citizens' response. What are we doing? Because there are no perfect systems, and perfect systems do not just appear. People, citizens, have to rise up and demand what they actually want. And so I will talk about part of the process to making it what it should be. It's what the SPPG, the School of Politics, Policy and Governance, really is doing, because we've looked at it. We have done an analysis and evaluation of the major failure points of leadership and democracy, not just for Nigeria, but in Africa, because the indices are exactly the same across most of the African countries, as we have very similar backgrounds. And we've said, okay, how can we solve this? What is the failure? What are the challenges we're seeing? And we're seeing increasingly that our political office holders, the elected politicians, don't know what to do. Either they don't have the character, they don't have the competence, or they don't have the capacity to deliver on the promise to every citizen. So that's why the SPPG is designed to say, you know what, we're going to tackle this. We're going to continue to be a beacon of hope to people, to say something can be done. We can't all give up. We shouldn't give up. Something can be done. And so we ask people to come. If we ask young Nigerian citizens to come enroll on our program and study, engage with people, network with practitioners, experts in the field, people from all walks of life, and understand those problems. And then so that when you go out there as a politician, you are well equipped to serve. You understand what it means to serve. You understand what it means to lead in the office that you have been appointed into or have been elected into.
All right. With the way that politics has been run on the continent in the past couple years, there seems to have been some measure of disenchantment with politics. How can we make it look more attractive without dangling money in the faces of politicians? Because if we look at the hefty sums that politicians are earning from politics, you take that away, we don't know if we'd actually get to see these people in office and serving. So how can we make it more interesting, make more citizens involved in politics without the desire to go in for the sake of money?
I know, Ola, really great question there, because as you've rightly mentioned, the attraction is the money and not service to the people, not development, not community building. It is not the advancement of our democracy. The current attraction is money, but it shouldn't be, because it's all shades of wrong. How can we make it more, how can we prioritize the right focus for people going into political office? And it's really we need to deprioritize what you will get out of it and prioritize the benefits to people. And one of the ways we do this is by training people to look out for and to look for the right things to do and to be when they go into public office. You know, public office holders, it's almost like some kind of embarrassment. It really is a huge embarrassment when you have your elected office holders earning and benefiting significantly way above the economic situation of the country. So there's no connect between them and the reality. And when there's no connect, there is no motivation. There's very little motivation to actually solve the problem, because you're living large, you're comfortable, you don't understand what the common people are complaining about. And when they talk, you would say it's a propaganda. Why? Because you're so immune to it. But politicians and public office holders should not be immune to the problems that they've been elected and appointed to solve. How can you solve a problem that you don't feel? How can you solve a problem that you don't know about? So yes, my response really is, I agree that money should be deprioritized. The benefit, the financial gains should be deprioritized through the policies that we put in place.
Yeah. And
prioritize really getting people, measuring people who really want to serve, who are committed to the growth of our nation.
Yeah, that's going to be tough, because, Nigerians are dealing with high levels of poverty. To a large extent, there's the argument that the leaders that we have in office, are really a, great representation of who the Nigerian people are. We might argue that, Nigerians are good, honest, God-fearing people, but if we keep, finding these type of people in leadership, it really might just paint a picture of who, the core Nigerian really is. And it's hard, because if we haven't had a different experience in the last 50 years, then, everyone's just going to agree that Nigerians, their leadership is really who they are. But, we don't have a lot of time. If you can quickly just, share with us, I also want to talk about women and their involvement in politics, involvement in governance. What do you think, must be put in place, if you can do that in like a minute, to have more women get into office and get into governance?
Quite simple. I think one of the things that must be put in place to encourage women in government is what the SPPG is doing. We've created a platform that really encourages women to be properly educated, because education and information is one of the hindering factors of people getting into government, because you don't know enough, you don't feel that you're competent. But when you come onto our program, that confidence and competence will grow, and also you begin to build the network of the right people, and that just encourages, helps you to go up that ladder and get into the space. Another thing, we also need to look at our constitution, look at our policies, and political parties need to redefine their policies to encourage competent women, because you cannot tell anybody that we do not have competent women in Nigeria that can lead us in politics. When we have so many competent women leading in various private sectors, running their own businesses, being CEOs of multinational organizations, not just in Nigeria, but representing us globally. So if we have that, how can we not have those competent women lead us in politics? It's just a matter of our policies and the decisions that we are making.
All right, Roberta Okereke, thank you so much for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central. Great job that you and your team are doing. We hope to see more women being interested, and more young people generally want to see an increased participation in politics and governance. Thank you for your time with us this morning.
Thank you.